Hey everybody, welcome to the Marvel Car Collectors Podcast. I'm Ian, and joining me this week we've got top row Jason.
Hello.
We've got Josh.
What it is.
I'm going to go bottom. I'm going to go Wesley.
Heyo.
And we've got Jason Masherah from Upper Deck. How are you, sir?
Happy to be here.
Mr. President, I kind of feel like I need to stand up and salute.
Yeah.
But I
please,
won't.
Please don't.
I won't. Yes, I missed that. I've got my Upper Deck blanket over my legs because it's that cold over here. So I won't do that. Jason, thank you for coming on. We were talking about this just before we hit live, that it's been 5 years since you came on to the podcast.
I think it's probably because there's a lot more interesting people here at Upper Deck than me, and you've had those people on. So I don't take offense at all.
No, that's all right. I mean, let's face it. I mean, Grant, bless him. He's so. I mean, you've probably watched or heard the episodes he's been on. He's so entertaining. You just wind him up and let him go, and he's off to the races. But no, you have been missed. So thank you for taking the time. Listen, where to start? I mean, when we you kind of said when we had the email exchange that you said you'd kind of like to come back on and maybe bookend things. And I thought, well, that's quite interesting. That's an interesting way to phrase it. So I guess before we get into the specifics of Marvel, you're now in your 12th year as president of Upper Deck.
I am.
How's it been going?
I can't complain. The industry has grown. It's gotten exciting. You know, I always say when I first started at Upper Deck, people said they still make trading cards. And now when you tell people you work at Upper Deck, they say, oh, you know, my kid collects cards, my brother collects cards, like everybody's back into it again. And honestly, it's really rewarding because for the longest time, we felt like an invisible industry. And I'm glad we're at the point that we're at now.
Yeah. I mean, you guys have been putting in the work. I mean, I often see content from the guys that work on your team, where there are you had the Upper Deck Diamond conference the other week. You've got Gen Con. You're at all the expos and things like that. Let me just mute Wesley because Wesley's got something going on in the background. There we go. He's back. You okay, Wesley?
I turned on my TV.
Someone turned on your TV.
My dog.
Dare they?
Yeah.
That's a very clever dog.
I was going to say,
anyway.
very, very talented.
Yeah. That is.
Might have something there, Wes.
Yeah. What else can he do? Can he come on a podcast? we need some more guests. So I know you're going to be working it and building that profile, but that must be rewarding, but also quite a challenge in itself to keep that kind of very face-to-face kind of presence. I think for us it's a challenge. I think it's a challenge for everybody in the industry right now is to keep up with the growth, to manage the expectations, to get out and spend time with your customers. And I think customers is a very plural term, right? So it's the shops, it's the collectors, it's interacting with people at shows. It's all over the board. And, you know, it's a challenge as the industry continues to grow to make sure that you're doing everything that you need to do to keep up with the growth, but grow it right at the same time. Right. So, yeah, it's busy. It's busier than anybody ever imagined we'd be at this point, which is great. No complaints. Yeah. And how much of that, because obviously, you know, past 5 years, I say 5 years, of course, it was February 2020 you were on last, and then a little thing called COVID happened just afterwards. And, you know, that seems to have kind of, it's obviously changed a lot of things, but it seems to have really invigorated the hobby. again, and that that still seems to be maintaining. How's it been, kind of riding that wave and being able to deliver?
Well, it's been a challenge. I think, when we were the first state to shut down in California when COVID hit, and we pulled all the managers together, and I said, look, one of two things is going to happen. Either the economy's going to go in the garbage and nobody's going to have money for collectibles or games, or everybody's going to be trapped in their house, just like in the middle of winter. Because I always say collecting is a cold weather sport, and they're going to be looking for something to do, and they're going to buy a ton of trading cards. And luckily, it was the second piece of that.
So later,
for us, we were growing at a pretty good clip starting in 2015. We saw hockey and Marvel and a lot of the other things we were doing continuing to grow. EPAC had launched. And things were going really well. And then it just went nuts during COVID, right? And factories shut down. And, one of the things I think that, people don't realize is that the movie studios shut down, approvals shut down, consumer products, people got furloughed or let go in cost cutting. And there was a period where we weren't getting approvals for several months, which backed everything up as well. So everybody focuses on production. I mean, if you're not getting approvals, you've got issues as well. So, I think the biggest challenge, which has been frustrating for us and collectors, is not only growing and supporting the growth of a growing industry, but also getting caught up after all these different factors that basically are fighting against you. Look, we needed more people. The studios and the licensors we worked with needed more people, or needed to bring back the people they let go or furloughed. The vendors needed more capacity. I mean, it was basically everything that could be a challenge over the last 5 years has been a huge challenge.
And do you feel like it's come out of that period now stronger? You think it's kind of it's kind of reset and then some?
That's a good question, Ian. I think we're stronger as a company. I think the industry is stronger. We're in a better place, but we also have different challenges than we had 5 years ago, right? And I think learning to pivot, to meet those challenges kind of head on, address those things. And I think the biggest thing for me is, our team, as you know, it does a really good job of communicating and going out and talking on podcasts or to customers and things of that nature, and trying to communicate what's going on, because some of this stuff to me as a collector or a game player, I mean, some of this stuff can be pretty frustrating if you don't understand what's going on.
Yeah. Well, that certainly really helped. I mean, I've said this to you before, but I'll say it again. It's really appreciated. So thank you that you've allowed that interaction with this podcast and with other podcasts to be able to kind of just put a sense of that out there, because so much of the way collectors interpret things is almost a little bit Chinese whispers on social media. They'll read something, they'll assume something, they'll say it as fact on another comment. Someone else, it becomes that viral thing, is that expression with social media. And I find it very interesting having, the insight that I've had from having conversations with your team. When I see those, and I really have to bite my tongue sometimes. I don't always succeed, but it's like, it is a company, but they're also people, and they're trying their best to make this right and to get you what you want. So it's been interesting.
And I think my team takes a lot of pride, because it's not just on the podcast. They're out in the message boards and in the different rooms. They try to communicate via social media. They do live discords. I mean, the people here are passionate. They're good people. And they take a lot of pride. I think we communicate, better than any of our competitors out in the marketplace, and try to be as transparent as we possibly can. Because look, the reality is, Ian, there's a lot of what you call them Chinese whispers. I'll say, people
it's probably not the most politically correct.
Yeah. I mean, it's people come from a position of, they think they know, or, they quote a source or whatever. The reality is most of them don't. You know, I always say, even inside the building, unless you hear it directly from my mouth, like, don't believe the sound bites. And I think that really needs to go in a lot of these message boards and groups as well. And honestly, it's not just even the collectors. I mean, sometimes I see some of the chatter among the artists, and it's just some of the stuff they say isn't fact. And look, it's hard. You know, we don't want to get into chat battles with anybody. It's not our place. And one of the things I think is tough too is that we're kind of caught in a no-win position in a lot of places. You know, we're trying to be the best representative for the licensor. We're trying to be the best representative for the artists. We're trying to be the best representative for the collectors, the shops, the distributors. And in a lot of cases, like, you don't want to say anything. You rather just take the bullets for everybody else that's involved, because that's our job. You know, that's the way we view it.
Maintaining a dignified silence is the way I think about it. Yeah.
Jason, thank you for the effort. You guys have always been good to us as far as putting out information and giving us what you can.
For sure.
And it goes a long way. It really does. The effort and energy is out there. You know, you guys have always been connected and you know, taking your time. So we really appreciate
you have a really cool, like a really cool team. And like, I was thinking, like, is that something, do you go out and like try to find people like that, or you just got lucky and have a good team around you that communicates well and stuff like that?
Well, so it's a great question, Wes. And I think the reality comes down to kind of mantra we have here is, one, you're only as good as your team.
Sure.
Nobody does anything by themselves, especially in a corporate environment. And we try to just hire good people and people who are passionate about what they do. And I think you've seen that. I mean, you've had Grant and Billy and Bubby and Joe and TJ. I mean, it's just, there are so many great people here that really love what they do and love the company and love the products that they make.
Yeah, no, that comes through.
absolutely.
So I know you might not be able to or willing to get into the commercial specifics, but what can you tell us about the process and the journey the past year or so with regards to Marvel and the license and how that's been?
Yeah. So, what I can do is I can talk at a high level. So, anytime you have a license with any licensor, you have a set term, you go through a renewal process. The renewal process happens every so often. A lot of times nobody really sees it. It happens behind the scenes because it's continuity, right? And we had that for a long time. What we're seeing at a lot of the licensors at this point is they have downsized their staff dramatically, and they are consolidating not only their staff but in some places licensees as well. So we went through a renewal process with Marvel. Obviously, they chose to go another direction, and we've been in wind down mode. I think that the hardest part for us is that we typically work about 5 years out. And again, we were backed up. It's crazy, but the studio was closed for quite a while. Approvals were closed for quite a while. And we found ourselves in this place where we were playing catch up. And then combined with the fact that we're working 5 years out, and all of a sudden you just have this deluge of products that you need to go through. And I would have liked to had more time to work through them, but being through a lot of license renewals, you don't always get the time that you would like. And we had an okay amount of time, but we had so much product in the pipeline that, we tried to get through it as quick as possible. So, the end of the year, we needed to get kind of everything out, and we went through it, and the license transition's over, and away we go.
Well, there you have it. I'll see you next week, folks.
No,
it was. Listen, it's been giddy for us. I'm sure it's been extra giddy for you. I liken it to. I don't know if you've ever worked in a professional kitchen.
No.
Any of you guys, but it's if you've watched Chef, No, not Chef. What am I talking about? Chef's an English show. The Bear. There we go. Anyone watch The Bear? Okay, so you get a sense of it. You have that. It's like a duck on the surface of the water. You're out front. You're enjoying a drink with your partner, your lady. You're having a nice glass of wine, and this plate of beautiful food comes to you, and you enjoy it. But backstage, it's absolute chaos. You've got people shouting for things. You've got people. So I imagine it was like that for you guys, trying to get all this through before you couldn't put out anymore.
Well, and not only that, Ian, but it's a no-win situation, because you're winding down one license and starting up another one.
Oh.
So you actually not only have this condensed space to work through the stuff that was behind to begin with, all the future stuff you're trying to pull forward. So all these artists that spent this time doing this incredible work, actually the work sees the light of day. But then you're also starting to work on our new license, which is the DC license, at the same time. So really, like, what the team was dealing with was like 3 times, 4 times the amount of work in a condensed space. And again, look, the reality is some of those products at the end weren't perfect, but given the circumstances, I think they came out pretty good, considering everybody was juggling and trying to get out the door at the same time. So yeah, it's again, when you see the stuff below the water, it's amazing we were able to release the stuff we were able to release.
I mean, I will say, I mean, obviously some of them might not have been as fully finished as perhaps envisaged, but Chef's Kiss on some of the last ones that dropped, because there was some, it kind of felt like everything came together on some of those sets, and you kind of felt like you'd had 4 or 5 sets. Matriarchs is a prime example, where you'd had 4 or 5 sets using the medallions, for example, and on that set all the elements just landed perfectly, and they're beautiful cards, and people are really enjoying them. So yeah.
Jason, in regards to the Marvel license, what do you think your greatest challenge was the entire time?
Ooh,
what was the, because I'm sure there's something you're very proud of in there, which I'd also like to know. What was your greatest personal victory in regards to that license? Because it was a fantastic run.
Yeah,
great job. But
I would say the biggest challenge was the evolution of Marvel as a brand and as a company during the time that we were running it. I mean, they were a standalone, then they were bought by Disney, then they were at odds with Fox and with Sony at different times. And look, because of the situations they were dealing with, the rules for us as a consumer products company were changing constantly. And being able to adapt and deal with the things like you guys see, the characters that are off limits for different times. There were full products guys that were put in the system that were completely canceled because of some of the situations we were dealing with. So like, for example, there was a Fleer Ultra Fantastic Four that was pretty fully baked that just got wiped off the face of the planet at one time. Man. And look, the team did a really good job of pivoting. Everybody kept a positive attitude. It wasn't in our control. And in most cases, it wasn't in the control of the people we were working with. They were very high level issues that were going on at any given time. And the ability to pivot and still keep the ball rolling and put out good products and, keep a real positive vibe, I think is probably the biggest challenge through the whole thing. What am I most proud of? Honestly, it's creating a whole category around Marvel trading cards. I mean, the reality is when Bubby and I took responsibility for Marvel at Upper Deck, there wasn't really anything much in the system. Nobody was really doing much in the industry. I think Rittenhouse put out some pretty good sets along the way, but they put out a couple a year, did what they could, small company. We weren't doing much of anything, and we completely reinvented the whole category as a whole and made it into something that everybody really took notice of and started collecting. And we reached a lot of new customers. a lot of new people, and completely changed how Marvel trading cards were delivered to the consumer. If you remember, we took, again, people don't remember this stuff, but we took some heavy bullets when we first started putting out Marvel product because we didn't have a sketch in every box. You know, everybody told us you got to have a sketch in every box, and if you don't, it won't sell. And honestly, people didn't order. Like when you go back to Fleer Retro, like nobody ordered that product. The first Avengers movie, like nobody ordered that product. Like if you go back into those products that everybody, you know, see as the grails now, I mean, we couldn't sell them because they didn't have a sketch in a box. And now people will look back and they go, wow, look at the content in those products was amazing. Marvel Gems was another one. Absolutely. I mean, Marvel Gems, like nobody wanted that product, right? Like it was completely trashed on the message boards. And now you look back and it was a great product, but people were used to a certain formula. And I think what we showed is, man, you can present the Marvel universe in so many different forms and fashion and present it in a very positive and collectible way.
Was there a point to where you stood back and you're like, man, I really got this going, you know, you're proud of?
I think, honestly, I think it's once we really got some momentum behind specific brands, because one of the issues with Marvel trading cards forever is that the brands were constantly changing out and you were experimenting and doing new things. And when we hit our stride of Masterpieces, Premier, Ultra, Metal, and, you know, we did a pretty good job of trying to space them out before before COVID, essentially, of having a nice cadence to those brands is, hey, this brand works. Let's reinvent it. Let's bring it back, you know, different character, different, you know, technologies, things of that nature. But they were recognizable. And, you know, you could count on them as a customer. If you saw Fleer Ultra was coming out, you knew what to expect with Fleer Ultra. If you had Masterpieces coming out, you knew what to expect with Masterpieces. That's, to me, Wesley, was where I was really proud, is like, look, people now have their favorite brands. They can collect them on a regular basis. They can get excited. And honestly, it's the most, I would say, bittersweet about this transition for us moving to DC is that all these collectors that have given their blood, sweat, tears, and pocketbooks to their favorite brands are no longer going to be able to collect those brands going forward.
Well, you say that, but what I like is of the first products from DC that you've solicited, right? You've got Annual. So you've established Annual as a brand. You just put DC in front of it. You know, we know, did I Fleer Ultra Superman? Did I or
yes.
Or yeah, there's something. Yeah, I can't remember them all now. And of course, you've had your recent Batman 80th anniversary with the metal kind of preview card. So there's that familiarity, just with a different IP. And
you'll see those. You'll see those with the other brands outside of DC as well. So, you know, there's some stuff that's going to get announced. But for example, we just came out with Fleer Retro Looney Tunes. So it's a fresh take on Fleer Retro with
got some here somewhere.
Yeah, with a property that people may love, and it's a way to connect to that brand. So yes, I mean the brands still exist, but obviously not with the characters that, you know, have been identified with those brands for the last, you know, decade plus at this point.
Yeah. But I love the fact that I never realised that my life needed a Foghorn Leghorn EX Century card number 25 in it, and now, now it's in here. You know. And it's brilliant. But you know, I like the fact that in the Halo set that you've got dropping soon, there's metal cards. There's a metal insert and Halo and metal. For me, that excites me. It's kind of, you know, for a card collector, it's like seeing Lego suddenly do another IP. It feels, you know, those brands feel so well established and so familiar now that it feels strong. You know, I'm excited about the fact that I've got metal combined with Halo. I've got metal combined with Looney Tunes, and that building that and being able to then cross-pollinate across all those different IPs, I think is frankly, it's genius. I think it's
absolutely
an amazing achievement.
Well, and look, because I know a lot of you guys, one of your favorite products was Black Diamond Marvel, MCU, the team is finishing up Black Diamond James Bond right now, which will be absolutely amazing as well. So yeah, I agree. Being able to take them across, line up that brand with the different licenses is great. And honestly, probably a nice change of pace for some people who want to expand, and collect something different for a change.
Yeah, but there's inserts as well that people collect, and they'll carry those through. Which I've seen happening. I think people are very excited about that. Very quickly, while I'm thinking about it, did the license include the TCG, like Legendary and the Upper Deck Gallery stuff as well, or is that still with you in some way?
So we're still making Marvel Legendary, so you'll see some new releases coming out for that. We'll also be extending that we continue to extend that to other licenses. So we've got like James Bond and other things that we attach to that. We just announced, I don't know if you guys saw, we announced Game of Thrones Legendary, which is pretty exciting.
I missed that,
which will be fun.
Wow.
Yeah. So you'll see Legendary continue in all forms and fashions as well.
Good. Because I know, didn't you do a boys Legendary?
We did the boys versus.
There we go. I knew you'd done a boys set because I'd heard that you were going to do a boys like proper set coming up. Is this true?
Should be. I think it's on target for this summer right now. So seasons 1 and 2. Yeah. Yeah. So there's a lot of really fun products coming out between the. We've got DC Annual coming. We've got Halo Legacy coming. We've got Bond Black Diamond. We've got Fleer Ultra Superman is in the hopper. There's a couple of new DC additions to the calendar that haven't been announced yet. That'll be coming up. The Boys is coming. There is a lot of fun stuff in the hopper, which will give a new flavor, especially on EPAC. The people that are on EPAC, it gives more and more different IP and licenses to collect as well. So if you just need to change pace a little.
Yeah.
Sorry,
carry on, Jason.
Just on that, I've really enjoyed some of the kind of, I don't want to say odd, but different things you've done on EPAC, like the Cosmic, Upper Deck Cosmic was a real fun set. And the Wild West Weekly was fun, and the Weekly President. So it's I like that y'all do that sort of thing from time to time because it kind of mixes things up, and it's something you don't normally think about.
Yeah, my favorite recently was the Goonies. I thought
yeah.
I thought the team did a really nice job with the Goonies product.
Have you seen the sketches of Chunk? Like they're wait, was it or not Chunk? But what the
Sloth?
Yes.
Yeah.
I've seen some really cool sketches of him the other day. It was the Goonies was a good call. That's awesome.
Yeah.
I recently rewatched that, and it's the first time in like 30 years, and I forgot what a completely nuts film it is. Someone mentioned something earlier on. I just kind of wanted to springboard off it. You kind of touched on it, but I had a question written down about how you feel that Upper Deck have advanced Marvel cards in the past 10 years, and you've kind of answered that. But what would you say your legacy from the Marvel card sphere would be if someone was to look back in 5-10 years time and identify, like, okay, this is what Upper Deck did? What would you like them to say? What do you think they'd say?
Well, look, I think Upper Deck has this long history of going into a market and kind of creating it and building it up. If you go back through, from the inception of baseball cards, and look, baseball cards was big, but it became a lot bigger once Upper Deck entered. Some of the other sports, basketball, nobody really cared about until Upper Deck came in. The one I always reflect back to is in 2009, we signed an exclusive collegiate license, and nobody really paid attention to collegiate trading cards until we took an exclusive license and really built it up. And then it became a big fight. And I feel the same way here. Like, look, the reason our competitors wanted Marvel is because we built up the category and built it into a sustainable category for trading cards as a whole. So I think for us, it's kind of taking something that was nothing or very little and really delivering an experience that collectors got excited about and building it into something that everybody now cares about, whether it's the collectors, the shops, our competitors. It really, I think we're leaving behind a fantastic legacy. And you look, it's a small world. Things are cyclical. Who knows? At some point, we might be back doing it again, right?
Yeah. Well, here's to the future. Well,
and with that, Ian, as well, I think what's really interesting is if you look at some of the products we put out at the end of our basketball license back in 2009, those products came out at the very end. They were kind of pushed out into the collector universe, and now they're some of the most sought after products of all time in basketball. And I suspect the same thing's going to happen here with Marvel. I think, we inundated the consumers, the shops, the distributors with so many products. I'm not sure everybody quite absorbed what those products were and what the content of those products are. And I think as time goes on, people will grow to appreciate what those are and become very sought after. I think even within the Marvel universe, I think if we look back to the last Fleer products of the, mid to late 90s, we saw the same thing, right? So, my advice to people would be, try to get as much of that stuff while it's available, while you can, even if you don't open it now, because you may want to collect it later and it may be out of your price range at some point. I got to be honest. I went out on a couple websites on Black Friday and bought some stuff to put in my closet, just because I thought the stuff was incredibly cheap. And look, I'm biased to our product. I know I'm going to want to open it later.
Yeah, yeah, and I've just got this image of this kind of closet that's like the end of Indiana Jones now, with all these wonderful goodies in it. Because I know you're a comic guy, so that must be a big comic.
Yeah,
be a big closet.
But I'll admit, Ian, and you, I don't remember if I told you this last time but people hear me say it all the time. I'm very careful. I actually don't collect a lot of Upper Deck product because it to me, I always deal with conflict of interest or perceived conflict of interest. And if the president of the company has this incredible Upper Deck collection, doesn't matter whether I bought it off of eBay or I bought it off of sites, it just optically doesn't look real good. Yeah. Right. Yeah. And it's unfortunate because I'm biased. Like, I love our product. I think we make the best product, but again, I have to be very conscious of, what the perception is. If I have a bunch of good cards, it doesn't matter how much I paid for them or bought them off the secondary market. So it's not what you would think, Ian. Because of that.
It's not that Indiana Jones thing, folks. Okay.
Yeah, I was ready to send in an application until I heard that. There,
it's got to be hard because perception is reality, right?
Not wanting to eat all the cakes.
Right.
Because, you just, maybe it's not. I don't know. That might be really rubbish.
But at the end of the day, it's the right thing to do.
Yeah. I mean, look, the reality is I don't know that a lot of people in our industry really pay attention to the conflict of it. Well, I know they don't pay attention to the conflict of interest issue because there are conflicts of interest all over the industry. But they also don't pay attention to the perception of some of this stuff. And we've seen there's been some controversy the last couple of weeks on a variety of issues in the industry. And it's just, there's no forethought to, hey, how does this look to people? That people don't think it through. They're trying to create buzz or create hype, and they're not thinking about, as a collector, how do I view those type of things? And we try to be very conscious of it all the way up through the system. And I think you have to be, if you go through the history of this industry, there's a lot of shady stuff that's happened, unfortunately, and you have to be conscious of it. You have to remember history so you don't repeat it.
Yeah, sure. Never of truer words being said, both about cards and other things. So I just wanted to ask about EPAC, because obviously one of the biggest things in the period of your tenure was EPAC being launched, and I believe I don't think it was the first. Wasn't a Marvel product the second product on EPAC? Am I thinking?
It was the second product. Yeah, 2016 Masterpieces was released during Comic-Con. that year.
That's right. That's right.
Look, I knew it was going to perform well, but I think it outstripped all of our expectations.
Yeah, Jason, I'd say one thing that I'll always remember is that timestamp in 2016 with the parallels and the established brand with Masterpieces, the serial numbering, changing the card stock to the thicker card stock, everything came together perfectly, I think. And from that point on, it was so expected and understood that the quality was going to be there, the style, a different artist. And the value never, from 2016 on, there was never any concern by people that wanted to invest in any of the Masterpiece sets that there would be any issues whatsoever.
Well, and I view Masterpieces as a blessing and a curse. I was personally involved with the initial conception of that product, and it went through a lot of, I would say, ebbs and flows getting that product to market, as you guys know. But it was a blessing and a curse because as the market got bigger for Marvel trading cards, and in particular Masterpieces, the thing was constructed in such a way that you couldn't really add much volume to it. And it created a lot of angst for collectors when the cost of the box went up because the demand so much outstripped the supply, right? And it's unfortunate. Everybody wants to have access to a product, but the reality is that it became the premier product and it got very expensive over time because it was built in a way, with the serial numbering that you just couldn't expand the production much. And we did as much as we could, but it still wasn't substantial, right? The increase in production over time wasn't substantial.
Right.
But I don't think it's a bad thing to allow something to remain special in that way, to a degree. It's kind of what makes it what it is, if that makes sense.
Yeah, a large part of what protected the value was how rare and how difficult it was to get your hands on these. The only mistake you could ever make was not buying more when you had the opportunity to.
Right.
So it was, that serial numbering it just always sticks in my mind. 2015, 2016. You always expected to have these, parallels that would come through, and it was understood that it was a safe expectation on your investment, and great products.
Well, and I think, sorry, Wes, I think for us it was, hey, how do we take this incredible artwork and make sure that it gets value? Right. So you have these artists that dedicate multiple years of their life to creating this artwork, and to just create base cards, which some people toss aside, didn't make sense. And I think that was the shift in thinking for this whole thing. I think the thing we tried to listen to as we went, and that's where we ended up with Excel, was, okay, people want to see it in a bigger format. How do we deliver that? How do we make that accessible? Maybe we keep the regular Masterpieces to keep the integrity of the numbering and things of that nature, but maybe we make Excel a little more accessible for people who really love the artwork, and deliver it in a bigger format, and it won't hurt the damage of the core Masterpieces line, right? That was kind of some of the thinking that went there.
Oh, that was such a nice set. That was such a nice set. That was a real surprise for me. Jason.
Jason, on your first appearance on this podcast, you shared your love of 92 Masterpieces and told the journey of how, you were instrumental and worked on getting Joe Jusko back for the modern set. And we just talked about Marvel Masterpieces, but did you see it taking off like it did? And I think we've had 5 sets now, and just the frenzy and just people are always foaming at the mouth for the next Marvel Masterpieces. Did you see it exploding like that when you?
Look, I'm gonna believe it or not, I would say yes, because I believed in the concept. And the concept to me, if you remember when I talked about it last time, was that I always believed in the single artist concept. That I didn't like the subsequent Masterpieces, and I know you guys like some of those subsequent Masterpieces from the 90s, but I did not. I did not like the mix of art styles and masterpieces after 92, and I would say even the Hildebrandt brothers to me was solid, because it was two artists versus one. Even the later Boris and Julie versions, but the one or two that had just like a ton of artists didn't feel like masterpieces to me. And I think there's something special about having an entire product curated by one artist, especially if you love that art style, and being able to collect your character and all the other characters you like in one solid art style. To me, that was the premise of the whole brand. And that's where Bubby and I started when we did this, and we believed in that concept. Now, look, it was Bubby and the help with some of the team that created the mechanics to make the product go.
Right.
But to me, it was all about that single premise of it needs to be one artist and it needs to focus on the artist. And then the team did an impeccable job of making sure that each masterpieces had a different art style. And again, I can't take credit for that. That was the art team and the product team working together, but making sure that they don't all look alike either. So you may like the art on one, you may not like the art on another, but we're trying to give everybody that likes a certain type of art a flavor of it. And even extending into anime with Peach, which was a completely different art style, but it was a single artist, edition. To me, that was always the selling point of that thing, and will remain the selling point as we flip over to DC masterpieces as well.
I just think "Vive la différence" is what I always say to people on the boards and the groups. Is it's just so refreshing to have that change. So just flipping back to EPAC just quickly. So I guess EPAC is very well established, and I've seen a lot of people in the groups with the Marvel license departing your shores bemoaning, okay, how are we going to collect Marvel without EPAC? And it's become that integral to their collecting experience, which must be again a blessing and a curse to an extent, because I think it is a vast platform. There's an awful lot of products on there. It has sometimes groaned under the weight of that, which I'm sure is a frustration for you as much as anyone else. Where do you see EPAC going? Obviously, you're going to have your other IPs on there. You're going to have DC on there. I imagine Halo, James Bond, Looney Tunes will make it to there, as well as Goodwins and all the other products. Yeah. But where do you see the platform going? What is the next evolution of it from your perspective?
Well, I can't give away too much. But if everything goes the way we expect, there's going to be a massive addition to EPAC sometime this year. I would hope sooner rather than later, but typically software takes longer than you expect. But there is a massive addition coming to the Upper Deck. I'll call it the ecosystem, right? Because for us, it's not just EPAC, it's Evolution and Collect Forever as well.
Of course. Yeah.
So there is another addition coming into the ecosystem that is going to be a complete game changer for anybody who uses our platforms, and it is going to blow people away, and it's going to create an ecosystem unlike anything that anybody's ever seen before. I mean, we were already there, right? Like nothing exists like EPAC.
Nothing.
And I love saying patented, so it's somewhat protected.
Nice.
But look, we think there's a couple things that are still missing in our ecosystem that we're going to be adding. And look, I think one of the things that we're really looking forward to that you'll see probably later this summer into the fall is you're going to see more integration again as we move towards DC, more integration between comic book collecting and trading card collecting as well. We've got some really cool plans coming to light. You'll see some really cool stuff at Comic-Con this year. Where they're really going to be more married together than they ever have been for us. And I think that's going to be really exciting for people who both love comic books and the trading cards that go with them. But there's a lot coming, Ian, and some of it's going to be mind-bending. So you may have to have me back at some point.
No, the door's always open. Well, actually, are you going to be in Chicago at the National?
I'm going to try. The issue is this year is that Gen Con is the exact same weekend.
Oh,
and
you're kidding. Right. Okay.
We're releasing this little game that we've been working on for 8 years called Rush of Icor at Gen Con, which is kind of a big deal for us. So I'm going to try to hit both of them, but we'll see how the travel goes.
Okay. Well, if you make it there, I'll grab a little bit of audio from you and we can talk about, hopefully you'll be in a position to talk about this exciting new EPAC opportunity. But yeah, wow. Okay. Speculation commences.
Here we go. And look, I think one of the things that may be getting lost on EPAC that I don't think people readily think about is, again, there's some incredible sales that are going on right now. Again, thinking about it from a collector standpoint, look, I know the instinct is to buy it and instantly rip it, but you can actually buy those packs and leave them unopened in your account and kind of ration them out over time. Because at some point you're not going to have access to those products anymore. Right. So, there are actually collectors I've talked to that buy extra boxes since the beginning of EPAC, and they just stash them in their account and they leave them there for future use. And I've heard people say that they're stashing packs or boxes and they're going to eventually sell them through an online break. I've heard a lot of creative things, but you can, I think people forget that you can actually store unopened inventory on EPAC.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. We've seen a few folk doing it. Yeah. And breaking stuff. I mean, I did read somewhere that someone said that it automatically opens and gets added to your inventory after a certain period of time. But again, it's one of those things. I've not tried it myself because I can't help myself. I've got to open it.
Right. It's willpower. There's no, you're not selling willpower, and we don't have. so we're just, going to open it and but
yeah, he doesn't want to sell you willpower. He wants to sell you cards now online. But I mean, my goodness, I mean, some of what I've found interesting over the past few months is the products that have had to come out before the end of 2024, and hearing from people like Billy C and TJ about things that were in the product on physical that were designed for EPAC. So you end up with these products that are so much richer than they were intended to be. There's a limited amount of them. The number of boxes printed for some of these latter products, I believe, is quite low in relative terms. I've been reliably informed, Grant. But it echoes your sentiment is get them now because they will dry up.
There were a couple products. So I'm behind opening product because I like to open all the product that we make. And there were a couple products, honestly, I felt were too rich. It felt awkward to me because they were so loaded. I was like, this just doesn't even feel right.
Like your Iron Man 3 of old, yeah?
Yeah, that's a whole nother discussion. But it's funny because, again, people are a funny thing. And I read these message boards and they say, oh, this is the way they always should have been made. Like, this is the best product ever. Well, look, it wouldn't have been that way if we were able to release the rest of the product on EPAC and have some time to sell things, right? Like it's loaded for a reason. And again, fantastic product that are going to be very valuable over time.
Yeah. Wow. Okay. So Josh, get that medallion set from Matriarch.
Yeah. Right.
Okay? While people are actually shifting it, I'm going to try and build a gold set of that, and I'm going to fail dismally. I can feel it. You realize, Jason, you mentioned it earlier on, Marvel Gems. I'm still 3 cards short of the base set. That's just the base set on that one.
Well, and to your point, I mean, one of the issues with Marvel Gems, it was never on EPAC, so the cards are not as readily available. They're harder. They're hiding out in the universe, right?
But they're out there. But they're out there. And we're going to. I don't think I've told the guys yet, but we're going to do an episode on how do you collect Marvel when it's not on EPAC, because a lot of people have forgotten that. A lot of people have become so used to the EPAC way, indoctrinated, which I'm sure is music to your ears, because that's what you want them, in your ecosystem. Josh, sorry, what were you going to say?
These achievements for these respective brands that we fell in love with and embed come into, wait, when's the next metal set coming out and stuff like that. The achievements was one of the best things I think you guys did on EPAC. It brought an exposure to a fantastic marketplace where trades were easy and fluent, and people were just trying to get these achievements. And so all of a sudden, next thing you know, you find yourself, just once you get started, chasing these achievements, and some of them, especially for masterpieces, were some of the best cards you guys made.
And also, like you doing that, I'm always a big fan of relationships, and you build some great relationships with people, and like
they want to help you get the achievement. They want to help you just like you want to help them if they have one that you have a few spare cards of. It created a whole new dynamic in trading, and it was very unifying as far as for the hobby.
Well, and
you made the world better.
Yeah, and I think look, this is we have a very different philosophy, and this is what makes companies different, right? So if you look at what we did with EPAC, and in particular the achievements, is we really wanted to reward people for set collecting. It was never, you guys can tell, like we could have created a cash marketplace on EPAC. We've never done that. We make it sure it's a separation of church and state. We have ComC, they do the cash marketplace. We have trading only on EPAC, and that's to build community, and the achievements are to help encourage set collecting. And that's really different than the rest of the card world if you look at what's going on with breaking and kind of that slot machine feel and things of that nature. And I think it really is tailor-made for entertainment trading cards, because most of us collect because we love it, not because we're trying to get rich and get the big hit and sell it off, right? And it is a completely different philosophy from everything else in the world. And the reality is the relationships you make in the community are so important. And yes, we have a few knuckleheads that we all have to deal with. But the reality is most people are good people, and they want the same thing that all of us want. And that's just to buy cards, escape our daily life, and enjoy what we do as a hobby. And that's really what EPAC was built around. And I think it is going to be hard adjustment for people to shift to this new reality. And look, EPAC is not going away. It'll be there. It'll have different IP, and if people miss the community in EPAC, it'll be there for them.
Yeah. So we're not talking past tense. We're not talking past tense at all. And in fact, there's still an awful lot of Marvel product available on EPAC. Don't forget. I mean, we've got Unbound Year 3 still rolling into its final quarter.
Well, and Ian, to that point, one of the things that you talk about, I've talked about on various podcasts, is I do think it's healthy for people to take a break for a little while, and reassess where they're at, finish some sets, and I think there may be a good stopping point for people once we kind of get through the inventory here, to just spend some time, as you said, Wes, working with the community, finishing some sets up, trading amongst yourselves, working together to finish some of those achievements and things of that nature, and really reassess like what your collecting goals are and what you're trying to achieve before you dive into all the new products that are going to be coming out at some point. So, I do think it's a chance to curate and collect, and in some cases consolidate.
Mm. Yeah, absolutely. I mean, I know so many people are doing that. I mean, I'm doing it myself. Having said that, I've just discovered that you do coin cards in Goodwins, so that's a whole nother rabbit hole I'm about to go down. But fortunately, that's a rather finite, focused rabbit hole, and that's the thing. You've just got to stay focused on the stuff that makes you happy and brings you joy when you're on there, rather than just trying to buy it all. If you can afford to buy it all, great, but try and stay focused with it. Guys, do you have anything else for Jason before we let him go into the sunset? You're all kind of, Jason's shaking his head.
This has been fun.
It has been.
Yeah.
Do you have like a favorite set from this last year that you're proud of?
I haven't.
If you're allowed to.
I haven't got to open them all yet. What I will say is the one that I really liked, although, I think maybe I haven't opened enough of it to really get a good feel, but I really liked Excel a lot. I thought it was very different. It was nuanced. I'm going to take some credit for that concept. It was something that we talked about years ago, that, we just didn't know if the community would accept the oversized cards or not. So we kind of pushed it forward. And for me, because 2016 Masterpieces was such a placeholder to, like Josh said, it was kind of nice coming back and seeing it in a completely different format that didn't jeopardize. I enjoyed opening every pack that I opened of that, and I just like the fact that it was different. Look, so many of the sets we put out this last year were really incredible, but I like that one because it was so completely like a right turn from everything else that we did.
Juice Goes Art was the perfect choice.
We loved it. We loved
the expanded in that size format. Juice Goes Art was the perfect choice. And
yeah, we spent so much time looking at the backgrounds that we just never paid attention to before. And yeah.
Well, and that was some of the concern with, what we heard early on when we were starting to commission a lot of original art back in the 2015, 16, 17 timeframe was, hey, when you shrink my art down, you actually lose some things, right? And the team did a pretty good job of not cropping stuff out where they didn't need to. But the reality is most of the art is done in a larger format, and shrinking it down sometimes does it a bit of a disservice. And yes, that's the most collectible size and everything. I thought it was a great experiment. I think it'll be one that we bring back at some point again. And honestly, like, I question whether we should have even gone bigger, maybe an 8x10, so people could really frame them and display them. Again,
just right. But
a mega masterpiece. Yeah.
Oh dear. Yeah. Well, Josh had the idea back in the day, so as we've talked about, I'll let you two talk about the financials on that one. I'm just gutted that we never got to see 2018 in that, because for me, seeing Simone's artwork in that scale would have been.
Well, and that was the plan, Ian. It was next up. It was the next one.
Oh, of course it was.
So close.
Saved me a few $1,000s.
Couldn't you have negotiated like a 6-month fix?
Yeah, a little grace. They do it all the
time. Because I promise you, the plan was not to have Excel and Platinum Masterpieces in the same year. That was 100% not planned. Our plan was to start with the Excel and kind of continue Excel, and then pepper in Platinum and some other kind of, and then the regular Masterpieces as well. I mean, we had already contracted for the next artist for 26 Masterpieces. So like, it's, again, we were working so far ahead. And
you have to with that, because the amount of time it takes them to create the works. I just got one more question before we let you go. In terms of traditional trading cards, obviously you've got EPAC, and that's a massive focus for you. But in terms of traditional trading cards, I noticed over the last few years you were leaning more into some of the retail verticals with blasters and things like that. Do you envisage that will continue in terms of the traditional trading card outlets that have been? You'll continue to focus there?
Yeah, I mean, our goal is to make sure that the cards are as accessible as they possibly can be. So I think one of the things, again, when we created EPAC, it was to create accessibility. Because again, people, especially people who jumped in during COVID, think that like it was always easy to get Marvel trading cards, and the reality was it wasn't. Trading card stores didn't want them because they primarily sold sports. Comic book stores didn't want them because a lot of them got burned with excess stock in the 90s. Gaming stores didn't want them because they didn't understand them. So really, we didn't have distribution outlets anywhere, which was part of the inspiration for EPAC and building the community there. Then as we went and demand increased for Marvel, we were able to get them back into mass retail locations in Walmart and Target, because for a long time they wouldn't take them. They wouldn't take Star Wars. They wouldn't take any entertainment trading cards because they just didn't perform. And that's changed. And you're seeing them back out in the wild. And then on our Upper Deck store as well, we want lower priced, accessible SKUs that people can pop on and buy 2 blasters for $50, $60 and ship them home if that's the route they choose. So, our goal is to essentially give people and collectors product that they can buy the way they want to buy, how they want to buy, where they want to buy. So whether that's in a brick and mortar trading card store, whether that's in a comic book store, that's a mass retailer, whether it's from an online retailer, whether that's from ePack, like, we're here to serve the collector and allow them to collect and purchase the way they want to. And again, very different philosophy from some of the other competitors in the marketplace, but that's the way we've seen it. And we've done a great job, and we're going to continue to build the market through that. So yes, you'll continue to see different SKUs. And we have one product in particular coming out in June for DC that will be 100% built to be accessible by the collector base. And we're really excited about that. It's a completely different configuration and presentation than we've ever done before.
Yeah, thank you for the blasters, because I'm a blaster guy, and I like opening physical packs. And so I go to the Barnes and Noble behind my apartment and Target on a weekly basis and look like a crazy person looking for Marvel cards, because it's hit or miss if we get them in my town. Like, sometimes they'll be there, other times nothing. So.
But there were for years and years where the retailers just refused to take them because they just didn't sell through. And it necessarily wasn't because of our product, was the entertainment genre as a whole. And I think it's completely changed. I think the collecting dynamic has completely changed, which is great for everybody because it makes it more accessible.
Okay. Well, very quickly, before we let you go, Josh, favorite Upper Deck Marvel product, go.
Masterpieces.
Jason?
Fleer Ultra Spider-Man.
Oh, good one. Wesley?
I'm going with Matriarchs. I've just been blown away with Matriarchs.
That's one I haven't had a chance to open yet.
Oh, you'll enjoy that one. One. Yeah, it's just gorgeous. It's that alchemy, as I mentioned at the beginning. This is a good full circle, actually. It's kind of all it felt like the stuff that you tried in Fleer Ultra Wolverine, the stuff that you tried in Fleer Ultra Avengers, the other stuff. It just felt like it kind of came together with that set.
And the artists in Midnight Suns was a lot of people. I loved it. The artists,
it was different, fresh art, a different style, different presentation of the card, yet they were clean.
That was second for me.
Midnight Suns was excellent.
And I'd say for me, Ian, I don't know that I can choose. It's kind of like choosing among your kids.
Right.
I wasn't necessarily going to ask you that one. But yes, no, I mean, grief.
Each one of them, because there really is a story through each of the products that we came out with over the years. And again, I spent a lot of time with the team, and, I give a lot of feedback and I ask for a lot of feedback. And, look, the one that lives in infamy that I love because it was so different and new and just really speaks to the era of when we were trying a lot of new stuff is Kree Skrull War. It was so different and it's so unique. And it didn't work. But it really is evident of that era when we were trying different things and to break this mold of here's a bunch of base cards and a sketch card in every box, right? And to me, it was indicative of, we came out with Kree Skrull War. We came out, the Avengers first movie product was absolutely loaded. You had Fleer Retro, 13 and 15. You had the first Beginnings series of 3 sets. You had Premiere. I mean, we really were in the experimentation phase. And to me, that Kree Skrull War, even though it's the one product that I think you can still get super cheap from that era, to me is indicative of a culture at the time that was looking to break the mold of what was known as Marvel trading cards. So that one sticks out to me in my head.
Wow. I mean, my recollection of that one, if I'm right, I believe that was the first Marvel product to ever have printing plates. I think it was either that or Beginnings 1.
Would have been close. Yeah.
Yeah, because I think they were out very close together.
Yeah,
I have a feeling Kree Skrull War pipped it.
I don't remember, but what I do, I still get excited about that product is that's an original comic book story. There's actually, I think, multiple stories in there that are exclusive to that product. So if you want to read that comic book, the only place to read that comic book is to collect that set, which to me is pretty cool.
That is pretty cool.
Yeah.
That is pretty cool. Wow. I love it. I suppose I've got to say mine, haven't I? I'm going to give 2. I'm going to be cheeky. I'm going to give 2. A Masterpieces 2018, simply because that was the big one from when I set the 2 groups up. And I've got such fond memories of that. And more recently, I mean, I've waxed lyrical about Black Diamond, but I'm going to say Eternals. I know it might not have been everyone's cup of tea as a movie and a product, but boy, that product has got legs, and I think it's delightfully put together and perfectly executed.
And I would agree. I actually like it as a sister product because they're very similar, and it's Shang-Chi. I think Shang-Chi is some of the most beautiful cards I've ever seen, and it's unfortunate those 2 products got caught in the windstorm of a million other products, and they were super delayed because of the closure of the studio. So they didn't do them any favors by coming out, I don't know how long, 2 years after the movies actually came out. But I mean, you talk about absolutely just beautiful. Even the base cards are just stunning.
Yeah.
Eternal's base card set is stunning. I mean, you look at it and you think the product costs how much? This is just like pristine quality, beautiful foiling, beautifully executed. Yeah,
and you can get those things amazingly affordable right now out on a lot of the online retailers, and at a price that we hadn't seen Marvel cards for quite some time. So those are your budget. Go out, search for the autographs, have some fun, build a master set. Like I love it. Like I love the fact that
the Shang-Chi base and design and the inserts, the Night Adventures and the 10 ring insert sets are. I was going through them. I had some from some blasters, and they're amazing.
Yeah,
they're gorgeous cards. They're gorgeous cards. So thank you for the gorgeous cards. I know we've got so many more gorgeous cards to come from you, and we will talk to you again, even though it might not be about Marvel necessarily. But this might be bookending in terms of this being the Marvel license being kind of now a rear view thing for you guys, but. Whether we stay focused solely on Marvel cards on this podcast or whether we diverge, who knows? That's a conversation.
Yeah, the mind boggles at DC Masterpieces.
The mind boggles. But there is so much exciting stuff coming up. It would feel remiss to be not talking about it. So, thank you.
To your point, Josh, I think what we're really excited about is, look, there's been, different licensees on DC for a while, but DC has never gotten the treatment that Fleer gave Marvel in the 90s or that we've given Marvel for the last 15 years.
Right.
So to be able to go and bring our brands and take our team and put our touch on it is super exciting. And look, to be able to do masterpieces and have the first masterpieces of Batman and Superman and Wonder Woman and
Joker,
the villains and Joker and Harley Quinn, and have those in Fleer Ultra and Metal and all these different brands. Like, we are super excited because it's basically fresh pasture.
Yeah.
Right. I mean, it is super exciting for our team to really grab a hold of it. And we've got some very passionate DC people in this building. I think you guys are going to love what you're going to see. And again, even if you're a Marvel collector, there are certain characters that you're going to want to go out and chase and grab. And again, it doesn't get bigger than Superman and Batman and Wonder Woman. Like, it just doesn't. So,
Mm-hmm.
We're excited about it. And again, like some of these employees have been working on Marvel for a long time. So sometimes it's nice to change things up and do something different.
And some of the artists as well. Don't forget.
Mm-hmm. Sure.
They get the opportunity. Some of these artists probably wouldn't have. I'm trying to think if any DC sets have done the original art thing in the last couple of decades. I don't think they have, really. It's largely been movie related, isn't it?
It's the stuff that's coming, guys, is going to be absolutely incredible. Like, I can't say enough about the relationship that we've started to develop with DC and the stuff that we have in the pipeline. Like, this team has a long-term plan. It's going to be incredible. You guys will be blown away. And then
I'm looking forward to it.
You add our EPAC expansion, our ecosystem expansion on top of it. You guys are going to have a fun year.
Yeah.
We're still reading from the last one, but yes, I can't wait.
Yeah.
Jason, thank you so much. I really appreciate you making time. I thank you as ever for your support and your team support, and for just making so many really nice sets. We're going to be, as you mentioned, a lot of this stuff people haven't had a chance to digest it because there's been so much.
Yep.
So we're, people are going to be rediscovering sets. We're going to go back and talk about sets that maybe went under the radar, or something else came out 2 weeks later and it got moved on from. There's so much to revisit, and I think people are going to be doing that for a number of years with the Marvel products at the same time as enjoying all the DC stuff that you've got coming.
And look, I think there is going to be opportunities to revisit. There are a lot of employees here that put their heart and soul into some of those products, and they didn't get their due because they didn't have the spacing that they deserved as products. So, as you guys do deep dives into some of those products, I'm sure, some of the employees will be happy to talk about those.
Bless you. That would be appreciated. I mean, obviously, if they're allowed to, that would be gorgeous. We'd appreciate that a lot. And I think, as we've always tried to do on this podcast, we try and have it so that people can go, and get that kind of oral history, if you like, of some of the products that have come out, and just hear some of the stories about how the sets were made. And I just think it's, a great resource for collectors to have that out there and to go and discover it. I mean, we're still, I still get occasional messages from people who go back and listen to the interview with Bubby, where he talks about the beginnings, the checklist on the hard drive, and you had to go and pay loads of money to get that rebuilt and all this sort of stuff. So, that kind of story.
It reminds me, Josh, I think you asked earlier too about the things that we're most proud of. I think one thing too that I would add to that is the platform that we've been able to give to specific artists over our time to really amplify and promote specific artists along the way so that they can build their career or amplify their career going forward. Look, we're constrained by a budget when we're building products, when we're moving forward. But I think we've been able to really put a spotlight on specific artists on their work and talk about how great they are and really accelerate some of their careers. And that I'm very proud of as well.
Yeah. That's one thing I always noticed was a continued effort from when I got involved, from the printing process and the medium that you print your cards on. Everything was tweaked and tweaked and tweaked. You can see in these parallels that have stayed constant, ones that haven't dropped off. And you can see the printing process has been refined and refined and refined. And you guys got better and better and better with all these different metal sets and masterpiece sets. And so using the new materials and bringing that to the hobby is something that I think is really something to be proud of, because it's not going away. Metal cards, plexi, sublimation printing, and you guys have done a fantastic job at making that a part of this.
And there are some cool stuff on the way too. I just saw some of the cards out of the Halo set that's coming out that are just
stop it! I'm so pumped for that set. It's only 2 hours ago I discovered on eBay, when I was looking for the coin cards from Goodwins, that you'd done historic rhetoric, which have sound chips in, and play little sound bites from presidents.
Oh wow!
Oh boy!
If you wanna have some fun, you can have Grant on and wind him up about those cards. He's very proud of those cards.
I'm gonna have a chat with Grant, because Amanda and I have started this other podcast where we talk about all non-sports, and I absolutely want to talk to him about that, because he's spoken before about doing cards with like Beatles in and things like that for some of those products. And it's just
But,
like the crazy genius stuff that you guys come up with.
The artist thing is I think something that we're really proud of, and again, there are so many great artists and amazing artists, and sometimes it's hard to stand out if you're an artist and you're trying to launch your career or move up in your career, and being able to shine a light on some of these artists and really promote them and showcase their work is something that our team is extremely proud of, and we'll continue to do. But as we reflect back, Josh, it just kind of came to me that's something that I know we take a lot of pride in.
Yeah. What a legacy to leave. Certainly,
Absolutely.
I mean, Peach Momoko, EM Gist, I mean, he was doing quite all right anyway, but I mean, listen, he's got so many more fans. Some of the guys that came through on Platinum.
Oh, what we watched
Flair this year.
Bella.
Yeah, Bella, of course. Bella, bless her.
Yeah, and again, we're not. The talent's already there, right?
Yeah.
Like, these artists are great. Sometimes they just need a platform, or a spotlight, right? And I think it's allowing them to shine. That is really exciting. And I know the art team here is really dedicated and spends a lot of time cultivating those relationships. So really proud of the job the team's done and continues to do in that. And I think it gets lost, right? Again, we get talking about card values and technologies and stuff that, I mean, a lot of what makes what we do great is the original art that these artists are providing for us.
Absolutely.
Yes. Yeah, most certainly. All right, sir. We will bid you farewell. Do stay behind until after the credits roll. But in the meantime, thank you, Jason. And how would you like to sign off this episode?
We got to sign it off the right way. Enjoy collecting, everyone.
Thank you so much.